Right, to another laid back chit chat on a Thursday night with the one and only SJJ, recently returned from America. Like without doxing yourself too heavily, would you like to tell us about your amazing journey whilst I click on stuff in the background and post this on Twitter?
Yes, thanks for having me back, dude. Look, this is my first actual return to YouTube, so I've had lots of messages from people. Hold on, I've got my own echo. This is how amateur I am. Okay, I've turned that off. So this is the first stream back. I've not even posted on my own channel yet, which is a bit weird. So, but
Yeah.
yes, I'm back from America. I've been back 1 week. I actually got back on election day. As I was telling you in the pre-show, I've got really bad jet lag, so I'm literally not sleeping on a night and then going to work on a morning. So I've come home exhausted every day, so it's a bit of a nightmare. I just thought I'd leave YouTube until I get back on my feet, etc. But I had a really good time.
Cool. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to ask you too many questions because I don't want to like get all like doxy. But I mean, so
No, ask away, ask away.
oh, well,
There's
where
not
did you
really
go
anything.
in America then? What?
So I went to Las Vegas for 2 weeks, but I
Yeah.
got a hire car, which actually wasn't really necessary, because you can Uber around the strip really easily.
Right.
So it's kind of a bit of a waste of money, but on because we got the hire car, on some of the days chose to do like some trips out of Las Vegas. Now Las Vegas is like right in the middle of a desert, and either
Right.
side of it for like 100 miles is nothing. So, but there are like some interesting places out there in the middle of the desert. Like there's the middle of Death Valley, which gets the hottest place on Earth. Like
Ah,
somewhere
yeah. I
called
always,
Furnace Creek. So we went there and
yeah.
stuff.
I always wanted to do that. Just like go into the wilderness because I've been to America before,
Yeah,
and one of the things I kind of felt like I missed out on was the wilderness because obviously we don't really have any wilderness in this country because we're a very densely populated
yeah,
nation. So you go out into the countryside, and it's just fields everywhere with hedges and farmers with guns and stuff like that. But
yeah.
like especially around Las Vegas, you get the feeling that you could just like drive through the desert,
Oh
and
yeah.
that
Oh,
must be amazing.
yeah. It's incredible. It really is. I had this sense while I was there. I don't think I've ever had it before that, like the sky just seemed so much bigger than it ever does
Right.
here, which might just sound like stupid, but because there's such like flat plain for such distance, and you'll like be driving down a road and you can see the mountain in the distance and look on Google Maps, and that mountain is like 50 miles away, but
Yeah.
just between you and that mountain is basically a straight road, and then there's just the blue sky overhead, and behind you like 50 miles going off into the distance. So it's like a flat plain with just this blue sky, and the world in a weird way, the globe, Brutus, just seemed so much bigger than what
Yeah.
I've really like ever experienced before. Because anywhere else that I've been in hills, in valleys. At some point, like where I'm now, where I live now, I'm kind of in a valley, so you never really experience the vastness of like how small you are. Anyway, it was like a really good experience being out in the middle of the Nevada desert though. So you can really imagine why they built Vegas in the middle of nowhere, so that they could just drive a few miles out and bury people like 6 foot deep, and they'd never get found again if they crossed the mafia.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like that scene from Casino where like
Yeah.
um they meet in the desert and the guy's like not really sure if he's gonna get murdered or not. But yeah, oh man, yeah, the desert. Like I to be honest with you, because I'm from the West Country, I really like hills. and
Yeah.
um, I feel really uncomfortable on the flat. I don't like it. Like I go up to the Midlands or whatever, and I'm just like, where are the hills? I don't like it. I need to be able to look in the distance and see like a hill with some trees on it in order to just feel like psychologically calm. But I do get what you're saying. Like going out in the desert and in the big wide open sky. Yeah, it must be really really quite something. Um,
They're
so
having a heat wave right now as well. I don't know if you've
yeah,
seen the news. There's what's called a heat dome over there. So it's gotten a little bit worse since I've left. But whilst I was there, it was like 112 degrees, I think, or 113. I've got this photo in Furnace Creek where they have a thermometer in the middle of the desert, where it's
yeah.
in the middle of Death Valley, and it's fucking crazy that kind of heat. But I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I wouldn't have wanted to experience the desert in any other way. I'd have been disappointed if I'd have gone there and it wasn't like brutal. Get out of the car and run to like the nearest air conditioned building.
Yeah, I like the heat. I like the heat in foreign countries. I like it. The hottest I've been in a heat wave in India, and there was no AC. We just have a fan. And it's like you lie down on your bed at night, and you've got the fan going full blast, but you're just
Yeah,
lying there covered in your own sweat, and you can't really sleep. And then you like get
yeah,
out of bed, go to the shower, turn the shower on, just like stand underneath the shower, getting soaked, just like try to cool yourself down a little bit, and then just go back and lie on your bed with the fan going full blast, and you're soaking wet, and you're still too hot. That kind of sucked. That was too bad. That kind of heat, because that kills people,
yeah,
and a
yeah.
lot of old people die when it gets hot like that. But generally speaking, I don't know, man. Yeah, the heat. You can understand why. I think it makes you feel hornier as well. I mean, this is why everyone's looking forward to this spring. Like, just feel like being more lazy and chilling out. It's good. It's a nice equator type vibe. But anyway, let's talk about what's been going on. You've been out of the loop. We did
Yes, I
do a
have.
list. I mean, I don't know if we're going to cover all these subject matters, but I did just to try to like be a little bit organ. Oh, where are you? Oh, there you are. We've got. We thought we'd talk about the Sargon apology. He's come out apologized to Jess Phillips, which is just I don't know, kind of interesting. We've got the interview with Suella Braverman, which you sent to me. But obviously, we've got the election. We've got 5 Muslim MPs being elected. George Galloway's been kicked out. We've got the Morgoth kind of dissident right reaction to the election. We've got.
What's that? Let's start with Morgoth because I don't know about that. Tell me about what was his reaction.
Oh, I know about this because I did a video on the election on Sunday. Like I'm trying to get back into the habit of doing like 1 hour long
Yeah,
video a week again. And so I thought, well, let's see what he said. He's the leader, right? Actually, to be fair, it's not just Morgoth. It's kind of like a Morgoth AA type leadership now, I suppose. But AA's not really an ethno-nationalist, is he? Because he's half Iranian. But Morgoth is essentially the leader of British ethno-nationalism. So I thought, well, I'll see what he has to say.
yeah,
So I read his Substack blog, and he basically says we can't trust Nigel Farage, so we need to create more organizations and do more networking in the background. And it's just like, okay, great. It's like, well, the same as for the last 8 years then, right? Just
yeah.
like this vague kind of organize and we'll get together and network in the background. And it's, oh fucking hell, mate, really? Is that it?
Yeah, well, if anything, this election has proven the sheer near impossibility of like grassroots organization actually penetrating through to the mainstream. Because I mean, the polls kind of predicted it exactly as to what reform would do. They got, what was it, 4 and a bit million votes, and just a
Yeah.
little bit better than in 2015 when UKIP got 1 MP. This time they got 4 or 5. Was it 5 in the end? They
5,
got
yeah.
5, which is a shocking demonstration of just how impossible it is for small parties to break through the system. Like I want to channel my inner Trump and say the system is rigged, but in many ways it is a testament to the strength of the British system, and this is actually what it is designed to do. It is designed to deliver, whether you like it or not. I know a lot of you people hate democracy, but it is designed to deliver stable, in quotes, democracy, in that there can be no upstart party that breaks through to the mainstream and creates an electoral shock. And this was proven so much with this election. Like, Reform got basically second place in terms of popular. Well, they didn't get second place in terms of popular vote, but in many constituencies they got second place, and very close second places. But if you get 49% in every single constituency, you come away with 0 seats.
Yeah, a lot of people have had this reaction. They're complaining about the first past the post system. They're saying we need proportional representation. I mean, it's just not something I really get that excited about, for 2 reasons. Firstly, because I don't, in order to change the system, first we'd have to seize power. So you have to beat the first past the post system in order to deconstruct the first past the post system, because you have to be the dominant government in order to pass a law, in order to break it. And if you are the leading party, it's not really going to be in your interest politically to break the system, which is supporting you, right? So I just don't know how it's ever going to change. It seems to me to be something that people are always just going to complain about in the background, unless it's really, really firmly, part of somebody's electoral pledge. The Liberal Democrats wanted it, and we had some kind of vote on it in Parliament. We didn't get a nationwide referendum, but they had some kind of vote on it in Parliament back in 2010 or whatever, and it didn't go through under the coalition. And now it's just something that people just constantly complain about, but I just don't really see. Like, I just think it's okay, right? Like, complain, but it doesn't change anything, right? So there's that, and then secondly, I mean, Hitchens, of course, has repeatedly said that the first past the post system gives you strong government, and I think it does, because we've got 2 parties wrestling against each other, and it has been said that in other countries like Germany or whatever, you have obviously coalitions, and a coalition government means a lot of behind the scenes people talking to each other and making deals, and I just don't know what it's like to live in a country that works like that. And is it better? Is it worse? I don't know. But I mean, for me, the whole question of first past the post is kind of like a moot point, because that is the system under which we live, and there's nothing we can do about it until we beat it and get elected. So, Yeah,
The problem is, as well, you might not want proportional representation if you get it. I've heard a lot of people calling for this, and I think obviously because it's in the interest of reform, they are going to be pushing on that lever. They are going to be calling for it. I've seen the conversation turn into this already. But if you get it, you might not want it, because, well, yeah, you might get reform managing to get like 75 MPs. But what you could also do, immediately overnight, a Muslim party could form, and then the Muslim party would command like 5 million votes in the UK at the next election and end up with 80 MPs as well. So
Yeah,
it's
100%. Yeah,
it's
it's
it's not necessarily a good thing. What
as I
reform
say,
has
like
to
if it's
do,
in our, we want to take over and have the dominant party and make the rules. And once we've achieved that position of power,
yes,
why would we screw ourselves by changing the system
yes,
to
exactly,
undermine our
yes,
power? Like it's like the, you know,
yeah. And that this is a real threat. I've thought about this for a long time. That there's what 5 or 6 million Muslims in the UK, and overnight, if we have PR, they could form a party, and you know that like 6 million votes. If you can get that, you are like half of basically all votes almost of what the winner gets. I think the winner gets about 14 million votes or something on average, or 12 to 14 million.
I thought it was
So
10, but it changes. Less people are voting these days. I mean, this is another one of the big stories coming away from the election, that Keir Starmer got less votes than Jeremy Corbyn in 2017.
yeah,
So
I saw that.
people are just not voting. Nobody's excited about this government. They only got in because Reform split the vote.
Yeah,
But as you say,
let's talk about
you're
that then.
completely right. If we had proportional representation, a organized ethnic group like the
Yes.
Islam in this country would just, they would, I mean, they'd beat the ethno nationalists, that's for sure. We
Well,
want proportional representation so that we can form a nationalist party, but as soon as we get it, we'd just be totally outnumbered.
we'd be
Totally
fucked.
outnumbered. Yeah.
Yeah. So reform has to spend, if they're going to get their act together, they have to spend the next 5 years creating grassroots people on the ground in constituencies, and they have to form a candidate list of like marginal seats, like the Labour Party does, like the Conservative Party does. These are our top 100 target seats, and they have to spend 5 years putting boots on the ground in those
Yeah.
constituencies, building local parties with like I know 30 or 40 activists on the ground, students who are willing to get out there on election day and do the hard graft which wins elections, like the Liberal Democrats somehow are able to do, even though they have like stupid fucking policies that nobody should even care about. Somehow they know how to do this game because they've been in it for a few decades now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the fascinating stories out of this election is the Liberal Democrat campaign, which has just been
Yeah.
absurd. Like, it's just like some old guy in a fairground. Like, what the fuck? And then they get, how many seats do they get? Like 60 seats? Like, how did people vote for this? How did people? I know a young lady vote for Liberal Democrats. I'm like, why do you vote for them? Oh, I think that, they're like good for young people, she says. I said, name me one policy. Name me one of their
Yeah.
policies. Oh, I don't know. I'm not voting Tory. I'm not voting Labour. I'm voting Liberal Democrat. All right, fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how they separate themselves anymore. Probably because I haven't paid attention, but they don't even do like the free student tuition anymore or any of that shit. They're just slightly more green, aren't they, than everybody
Nobody
else?
knows what they want. Nobody knows. Nobody
They're
has
just
any idea.
they're just
It's
not
just
Tory or Labour. That's
yeah,
what it
that's it.
is.
That's what it is. It's not Tory,
And
it's
it
not Labour, and
so
Reform are racist, so we're not voting for them, so we'll vote Liberal Democrat because that's safe.
or reform a Brexit. Everybody associates Brexit with Nigel, so the anti-Brexit but disillusioned vote went for Lib Dem.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did amazingly well. I mean, what?
Incredible. But there's, I mean, I've seen somebody point out like the argument that they push forward is like a vote for Labour is wasted here. So if you want to get rid of the Tories, vote Lib Dem. That's how they managed to get so many seats. So this is what Reform is going to be able to do in the coming election, because in about 80 different seats, they came second place to Labour. So they will be able to say to those people, a vote, a vote for the Tories is a vote for Labour. So just vote for us. And so, as you were saying, they need to get organised. They need to build the party up. Well, they need to concentrate on those 80 or 90 seats where they came second place. And in the next election, they should get like 90 MPs at least in Parliament, if not more. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time. It's a long way away. But that's on the table now.
Yeah.
That's pretty much in the bag.
It's a tall order. It's a tall order again. I think we're looking at a decade of Labour in power, probably, unless the Tories really pull something transformational out of the bag. But I think we're going to see something more like 1997, where the Tories spend a period now in the wilderness, shuffling between bad leader after bad leader, and then can Reform create this on-the-ground movement? We'll have to see. Nigel should know that this is what is required on the ground. He says they've got 65,000 members now. The problem is that this will be split around the country. They need to target. They need to get their hit list out of seats. And
well, I'll throw this out there just because it's boiling at the back of my mind. Like I've seen other people mention this. But some people have mentioned that if they'd made a deal, obviously the Tories are not going to do this because they're retarded, but if they'd have made a deal, you could have had the Tories taking the South and Reform taking the North.
Yes.
And we could have just eliminated Labour.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the next election, like I say, those 70, 80 seats, if the Tories just say, okay, Reform, you decimate Labour, and if you leave the South alone, we'll let you take the North. I mean, I don't think that deal will ever happen. I don't think it will happen because people are just too petty and partisan and what have you. But it's on the table. Like, you could wipe out like the Labour Party, Bush. Do you know what I mean? Death blow, and then we've got two right wing, Tories party is not really right wing, but you know what I mean. Two centre right parties running the country.
That is interesting. Now, it really is interesting, actually, when you think about it, that in many of the seats, exactly what you just said happened. The vote was completely split between Conservative and Reform. If you added up the two, it would be more than the low turnout that the Labour Party candidate got. And so we should probably talk about how Reform elected the Labour government this time, and whether, what that means, but whether it was inevitable anyway or not, I don't know. But I remember in 2 or 3 weeks before the election, God's Own Prototype, who's one of your and my viewers, left a comment on one of my election videos and said basically this, that they should do a similar pact towards in 2019, but identify where the Conservatives can win and identify where Reform can win, and do a mutual pact this time, instead of Reform in the guise of the Brexit Party just standing down like they did across the board. They should have done it where it was mutually beneficial to each, and they'd have probably come out with the Conservative Party something like closer to 200 seats, and Reform with closer to 50 seats.
The Tories would never do a deal like that, though. That's the problem, because they're just fucking stupid. But you could. I mean, one of the things that's happened in the election is that a lot of the best Tory members have just been eliminated. Some of the genuinely right-wing MPs have gone, because the safe seats in the Tory party are owned and run by the globalist woke. Everybody started calling them wet Tories recently. I'm not sure how that came about, but these people are being referred to as wet Tories now, or whatever, One Nation Tories, whatever they are. They've got the safe seats, and so the Tory party, it should be reflecting on this defeat and moving to the right. Suella Braverman's been pointing this out, in the interview that you sent me. She's this interview with well, what's that guy? What is his name? Stephen? I forget it. The GB News guy, the young dude. She did an
Yeah.
interview with him recently in America. She's basically saying this. I hope that she becomes the next Tory leader. But the thing is that she doesn't really have any support now because all the best MPs are gone. Mog's gone.
I know.
Um,
Wow,
Liz Truss is
that's
gone,
great.
and it
Yeah,
was Mog and Liz Truss that created Popcon, right? Popular
yeah.
Conservative. They
Oh,
had the
yeah.
whole meeting and the blah blah blah, and that for me, like I was hoping, okay, Rishi's going to go down. We'll make Jacob Rees-Mogg the new leader. We can have like a straight white man as the leader of the Tory party. That's gone now, and a lot of the people that supported Popcon are gone. Connor Tomlinson's been kicked out of the Tory party. A few other people, right-wing
Oh,
people.
Carl Benjamin has as well, hasn't he?
Sargon of Akkad's out. The other, what's his face? The Brown vicar guy. He's been kicked
Oh, yeah.
out. He's out. So, and that's straight after the election. So in an immediate reaction to the election, the knee-jerk reaction of the Tory party is not to have any self-reflection at all as to, oh my God, look, we've really cocked up. We need to like think about things. No, they're going further to the left. They think they're so dumb. They think they've lost because they were too right-wing. That's how stupid they are.
Well, I hate to say I warned about this, but I did spend 2 months trying to beat this drum to everybody and say, in my opinion, in the ashes of a real Conservative defeat, then the slight leaning to the right, the like nationalist light stuff that Rishi Sunak was doing would be blamed in the aftermath for the
Yeah.
defeat, and I think that's inevitable. I lost the clip, but I had a clip of somebody on the election night, literally saying the same thing that and they can do this. They can say, look, the country has just voted for the left. How on earth can you now say that what we need to do is offer more right-wing policies? And people will go, duh, obvious.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So this is what's going to happen, probably. But there is also the potential that some smart people in the Conservative Party are going to look at the problem that has happened effectively, which is that Reform split the vote, and it's that constituency that they have to get back again. So,
Yeah,
and that is the truth. That is the truth of it.
Yeah, I think the only path forward now is entryism into reform. That's it. Like I made a video 2 months ago or whatever it was saying Tory entryism is the only way to save the country. I've always been an advocate for entryism. You can talk about far right stuff on the internet if you want, but if you want to seize power, we do live in a democracy, which means you have to moderate your opinion and you have to take the center right because you have to have the majority of people to vote for you. And if you want the majority, you've got to be moderate, right? So we have to take. So how do you do that if you are far right? Well, you do it through entryism. This is the path forward. This has always been the path forward. This is why, we already mentioned the Morgoth thing. Like he's basically saying, don't do entryism. That's his immediate reaction to the election, which is a huge mistake. Our path forward to success, our goal, our plan for the next 5 years has got to be to capture the Reform Party and make it do what we want it to do. I don't think that we can capture the Tory Party anymore. I think that has died because, like I say, so many of the good MPs have gone and they are just moving further to the left and they're just going to become increasingly irrelevant. I think they're going to bleed out members. But they've got 200,000 members or something. So many of these people are just old people who like Nigel. All of these people are going to go into reform. And that's the path forward, which is why, like the title of the video is, or the live stream is, we do not want Zia Yushaff. Like this is just like spoiled my day.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's like I was just having a good. This election has been a massive sacrifice for us, okay? Because the Labour Party is going to destroy the country at a much faster rate than the Tories. This is like a chess move where you take a sacrifice, lose the battle in order to win the war. That's what this has been. Like, we wiped out the Tories so we could get Farage into government and put some momentum behind him to get a real change. This is a drastic tactical move that the British public have taken, and a lot is right. Well, the whole country's riding on it, and I was quite happy with the result. I've been quite happy watching Farage's banter. I don't know. He's put out a few videos, like him and the boys are standing out Parliament and they're about to go in. He says, "Well, if anything goes wrong, we'll blame it on Lee Anderson," and they all laugh and chuckle, and it's like, yeah, well, yeah, the boys, it's all good and everything. And then this fucking cunt, right? Zia Yushaff, a Muslim, late 30s, apparently an entrepreneur, right? Whatever that means. So he's got money. Goldman Sachs, somebody says in the chat. Now
it's Yusuf, actually. I think you've got
Yusuf. Zia Yusuf.
Zia Yusuf.
Yeah. And he's chairman of Reform UK. This is not what I voted for. I did not vote for this. We do not want this.
Yeah. Shall we just watch the video? I'm sharing my screen. Shall we just show everybody the video? I've got it pulled up. There it is.
4 million votes, 14% of the vote share, second in 98 seats, and a wall of momentum. This people's movement has defied all the odds. But make no mistake, this is just the beginning. Nigel Farage has asked me to serve as chairman of Reform UK. It is my honour to accept. Thank you so much to all of you who have voted for and campaigned for Reform UK.
Anyway, I think we get the picture.
I just don't even want to listen. Maybe he's a nice bloke. I doubt it. I just don't. I've had enough. Do you know what I mean? I've just had enough of brown people. I've just had enough. You know what I mean? Go and join the Tory party, Zia. I mean, it's starting to look like the flipping Labour Party's whiter than Reform at this point. Oh my god! And what's the debate? Like, if you look in the comment section, you got people saying, what about Benjamin Habib or whatever the other? It's like, oh no, we want the other brown person. No, I don't want either of them.
Yeah, we want the one in the turban, please.
Oh man,
it's look, I saw somebody on X say to Nigel Farage, what first attracted you to the multi-millionaire Zia Yusuf?
Yeah.
So there's something to that. He's the biggest donor. Plus, he gives the party what parties inevitably do when they come into some kind of legitimate organization, when they actually have to answer to the press and these accusations of like racism. He gives them a brown face with which it's a brown shield.
Oh no.
And this is what like British politics is all about now. It's why we're almost certainly going to get a brown face again of the Conservative Party, because it allows deflection from the inevitable accusations of racism that now just happen to any even slightly right-wing party. So it does that. Now, there's also a second point here, which is that somebody had to be appointed the chairman, because there had to be a reshuffle because the deputy leader did not win a seat. Richard Tice did win his seat. So Nigel Farage was the leader. It makes sense to give the deputyship to Richard Tice because you need your deputy in the Commons. So that meant that the chairmanship was up for grabs, and it was basically bought by a Muslim.
Yeah. No, look. I don't even mind. I don't even mind the brown face thing. Actually, It's just like in this country we have essentially three ethnicities of brown, right? We've got the Muslims, we've got the Hindus, and we've got the blacks. Okay, give me a Hindu or give me a black, right? Because blacks, whatever you think about them, they've been in Western civilization for like 100 years now, or whatever. They make black music. They're Christian. Some of them are, but they've kind of integrated to a certain extent, right? We all listen to black music, right? We've all met black people, and they're funny and they're good to fun to hang around with, and what have you. So blacks, okay. Hindus, they make money, but the Muslims, they're raping schoolgirls. Okay, like, what the fuck? It's no. Give me the other brown. You know what I mean? I don't want to be racist or anything, but can we just have can I just have like a friendly brown, like a Suella Braverman? That's a friendly brown. I can get on with Suella.
Yeah.
I could sit down, have a chit chat with Suella. Okay, nice. I could have a chit chat with
She's a Buddhist, by the way.
Oh, is she a Buddhist? Oh, I thought
Yes,
she was a Hindu.
yeah. Did you see the palaver of her swearing in? It's pretty funny.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. They couldn't find. She said, "Have you seen the swearing in thing? It's a fucking. Only in Britain could you have this system where you have all these different people of different faiths and allegiances come up to swear." But they can basically swear whatever the fuck they want. Do you want to swear to the big green chocolate teapot, orbiting Jupiter? Yes. Okay. I swear allegiance to the teapot orbiting Jupiter, and I promise to serve. And they're like, thank you, and off you go. It took about 5 minutes to find what she decided she wanted to swear on. I don't think she could pronounce it. She probably doesn't even know what it is, but she's nominally Buddhist. It was the Dhammapada, I think.
Yeah.
And they found it, looking through all the books, right, that they've got there. They gave it to her, but then she had to tell them that, well, I also can't say swear by Almighty God, because there's no God in Buddhism, so I also now need to affirm whilst holding this book. So... it was an absolute shit show. Only in Britain, basically.
Yeah, I do think that they should pledge their allegiance to the king. I have to say, I don't know how they managed to get away with not doing that. I don't think they should be in Parliament unless they pledge. I don't mind the multi-religious thing. That's fine. I mean, I believe in religious freedom. So if you want to swear on whatever book it is or whatever, that's fine. But you should pledge allegiance to the king. That's it. And if you don't, you shouldn't be in Parliament, in my opinion.
I think actually they do have to say "and to the king" as well of it. But
no, I saw a few, and they're like, "I pledge allegiance to my constituency," and this, that, and the other. Yeah. Yeah, because you're just undermining the constitutional monarchy.
Well, plus you have the situation now where, is it still the case that Sinn Féin MPs, or they elected to the House of Commons, refuse to sit because they won't pledge allegiance to the country?
I don't know. I've got no idea.
Yeah, I believe that's still the case, where Sinn Féin MPs still do not sit in the House of Commons, despite being elected in Northern Ireland.
Well, Northern Ireland's in a bit of a state of crisis, and it's been that way for a while. I don't really know what's going on there, but to be honest with you. But yeah, okay, so yeah, there you go. 5 Muslim MPs. What do you think about that? I mean, I was just talking to people at work about this, and just saying, you got 5 Reform MPs on the one side. Is it 4 or 5 Muslim MPs all the way on the other side, and then the Labour and the Tories in the middle, and the country's just being ripped in half? I mean, that's essentially
so
what's going
when you
on
say
now.
When you say 5 Muslim MPs, what do you mean? Surely there.
I mean, independent.
Okay.
Right.
Explicitly, Gaza probably.
The Gaza vote. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you've got basically 5 Hamas terrorists.
Yeah.
5 Hezbollah in Parliament.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically.
Yeah.
So what happened with?
But George Galloway's gone.
Yeah, what happened with him? Why did he lose his seat
Fuck knows, mate.
within
I don't
3
know.
months? How
Yeah, it's
bizarre is that?
incredible. Yeah, it is very bizarre. Yeah, but who cares? He's a cunt, so fuck him.
Yeah. All I can imagine is that there was an intense ground battle. Both parties certainly the Labour Party, probably pooled all its resources in there. If you put money and activists into a constituency, boots on the ground, the Labour Party literally does ballot harvesting on the day. I think I talked to you about this before, how they literally on the day, they get all the activists, they can bring hundreds of people into a marginal constituency from the neighbouring area. They come with their cars, they give old ladies lifts to the polling station, they knock on every care home door, bring them out by the hundreds. They can turn out the vote. So that's probably what happened.
I've seen Unwashed saying that like it's like Reform took down George Galloway because they split his vote or something, and he's all upset about it. And it's like, mate, what are you doing? What the fuck? What are you doing? Why are you teaming up with these people? Why are you taking their side? Oh, yeah. Don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. Imagine, just absolutely shocking.
Is Daft Nick falling for the over contrarianism problem? That when you become, I think I suffer from this a bit. We need to talk about this a bit. I think I suffer from this a bit. People have pointed it out to me that basically you get red pilled. You discover that race is real. You realize like who's running things, and then you like get involved in right wing politics, and that you realize that all the groups are either compromised or like unintentionally leading you over a cliff edge, if not on purpose. You react against that. You become like an exiled in even on the right wing from all the others, because you kind of realize that none of them are any good. And then you're in this weird place where you're like out on your own, and you feel like you've got nobody likes you, nobody agrees with you, even in your own side, and everybody else can't see the truth, and you overcompensate with contrarianism. Do you think there's something to that?
Yes, that and anger, I think, plays a role. And I actually wanted to talk to you about this because obviously TBR has returned. And,
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And he's still frothing at the mouth. I like TBR, but I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years because he thinks I'm an Illuminati agent. But the last time I did speak to him, I mean, I did. Well, I mean, he does. Like he just told me he thinks I'm an Illuminati. So
he inevitably thinks that of everyone.
No, but he's quite serious. Like he was going to like some protest in London or something. I've still got his phone number, but I used to phone him up just for a chit chat, you know. And apparently, I phoned him up, and then he got like, I don't know, something happened. I don't know what it was, and he thinks that I set him up or something crazy like this. I don't know. Right. I don't know. Yeah, I think that TBR and Unwashed, as you say, partly is contrarian, partly is anger. You know, like shouting and getting angry at people on the internet. You'll find yourself backed into a corner because you're putting a lot of negative energy out there, and it's going to come back at you. And obviously, you're going to get more alienated because people. I think like anger is something that you need to do in like small doses. Too much, and you just burn everything down. I do think that in the dissident right, there is like definitely a kind of like arse kissing attitude towards people like Morgoth and AA and so on and so forth. And it is good and it is healthy to push back on that and say like, you know, you guys are idiots, F you. That's good. But then if you do it too much, and you just get caught into this trap, then you're like frothing at the mouth, screaming at people on the internet, and you're not doing anything positive. You're not building anything positive. You're just shouting at other celebrities, and it's kind of shallow and it's kind of boring. It's like entertaining for a short time, and then it's like, okay, like, right. I'm like, I'm not learning anything from this. You know what I mean? I'm not learning anything from this. I mean, an example of this would be that girl that popped up on the internet, like in America a while ago. For what did she say? She said it's like everybody's gay and blah 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 blah, and all of a sudden she's got like 100,000 followers on Twitter, and she ends up hanging out with Nick Fuentes and all this. And like I've followed her for a short time because they're like funny, mouthy white girl, but then after like 3-4 videos of her swearing, it's like had enough of that. And a similar way, like you see Thomas Baden Rice, and he's like going after Poe's baby and this, that, and that. It's funny, and then it's like, okay, mate, I've seen it now. I've seen that, right? Got the t-shirt. It was funny, but I'm not learning anything from this. You're not contributing anything really positive. It's just a negative, and it gets boring, and you're fizzling out. So I think getting out, like I say, a little bit of anger to push back, yes. Too much, you'll burn all of your contacts and friends, and you'll burn your audience, and you'll burn yourself, and then you end up isolated and insane. And I think, I don't know, I think maybe Unwashed has fallen into this trap, so because I don't really want to have anything to do with him. I've got to be honest with you. Like, I'm just like, I look at his Twitter feed, and it's just like, fuck you, Carl Sargon of Akkad's just come out and apologized to Jess Phillips, right? And Unwashed is like, fuck you, of course you should have apologized fucking years ago, you cunt. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Wow, okay.
Chill the fuck out, bro. Like, calm down,
Have you spoken to him about this? I thought you talked to each other.
Yeah,
or did you only talk online?
I'd actually sent him a message just a few hours ago, actually, but like I say, I'm still friendly with the guy. If he listens to this, I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say.
I can imagine
I've said
his
this
response.
stuff to his. I've said this stuff to his face. I've said.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I imagine you will have done. You're saying it on stream now, so of course you will. This isn't behind his back. I'm sure he's probably listening.
I've said all of this to his face, and I've said all of this to Thomas Baden Rice's face as well. I said it, and I know it because I myself have fallen into the trap of getting angry with people on the internet.
Well, I'm more interested in what his response was. Is it, yes, but I'm right, and they're wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's upset because people aren't watching his videos. And I think he does do good work going out in public, going to Speaker's Square. Like, he protested against the lockdown. This is good stuff. He's talking about the Jewish question. His face is out there. Like, he's brave. He does some good stuff. But he's upset nobody's listening to him. And I'm trying to explain it to him. Yeah, nobody's listening to you because you're a cunt. You're like fucking... You got this superior attitude, and you're looking down at everybody and swearing at them and saying, you're a sexist, you don't care about women. He's sending me messages. Yes. Wow. He's sending me messages saying, you never talk about the Jewish question. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, are you nuts? I've been talking about it for 8 years. Like,
and you're a misogynist.
Oh man, like, get off your high moral horse, buddy. Like get off.
It's fascinating with people like Nick, how like you say, he has alienated everybody, probably from feeling that he was excluded and alienated from all the other groups. Like, he fell out with Patriotic Alternative and all that kind of shit, and then he gradually fell out with everybody. And he will have felt at the time that he was trying to play ball. But the one group that he hasn't fallen out with is the girls, isn't it? He's still He's 100%
And Nick
been...
Griffin.
Oh, and Nick Griffin, okay.
Yeah, he's kind of like on the Nick Griffin feminist anti-lockdown team, as far as I can understand it. Yeah. So, I don't know how you square the circle of teaming up with the feminists and hanging out with the Muslims at the same time. I don't know how like that.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's like on the one hand, like you're screeching at Sargon of Akkad because he made fun of Jess Phillips. Whereas, I mean, that's very interesting in itself. Because why did Sargon apologize to Jess Phillips? Like, you look at the interview, he apologizes specifically because he recognizes the rising tide of violence in British politics. And specifically because Jess Phillips herself was complaining because when she got elected, she had all these Muslim men in the audience just hurling abuse at her. And she was pointing out that, like, there's a genuine threat out there that these men are getting very, aggressive towards the ladies that are involved in politics.
Yeah.
So Sargon comes out, apologizes to Jess because of this, because he's trying to make a message of, I don't know, solidarity with white people or just solidarity with peace. Like we need to calm down with the rhetoric because things are genuinely getting dark and violent. So I don't know whether you agree with him or not. That was his motivation for doing it. And Nick, unwashed, instead of like saying, yeah, man, like that's good. And yeah, these Muslims shouldn't be threatening Jess Phillips. He somehow turns against Sargon and mentions nothing about the Muslim men that are threatening Jess, because now he's on Team Muslim with Nick Griffin and George Galloway. It's just all fucking back to front and upside down, and I don't know what's going on,
Yeah, so to be clear, I think that it was a sublime, for once, a sublime tactical move by Sargon, thinking of the bigger picture here. I've no doubt that he did not want to apologise to Jess Phillips, but he saw that it is like a really opportune moment to differentiate what is considered the far right, or the far right threat, or whatever it is made out to be, how we are called like this threat, this far right threat or something, to differentiate us from what is a real group, a real, actual violent threat, and to say, no matter what, Jess, no matter what, we're nothing like that. You're now faced with actual, real, violent people who do pose a threat to you. And let me differentiate what you thought was like the worst thing ever from now people who are literally looking to chop your head off, basically. And I think that was a really, really clever move by Sargon to do it. And it cost him nothing. And it was smart. It might cost him like a little bit of street cred with like the manosphere or something. I mean, I doubt it. I think he did do it in a little bit of a cringy way, like saying he'd apologize to her in person. It was a little bit taking it too far. But yeah, I mean, I more or less agree. Like I don't know. I'm not really for it, not really against it, but yeah. At the end of the day, it was only a bad joke. It was only a sour joke, and it is completely different to political violence. So it should be differentiated. It is the right thing to differentiate it. At the end of the day, whatever Nick thinks about it, we can't have the two lumped together, which is what these people attempt to do. They attempt to enact laws and censorship and all these restrictions on political organisation because they lump in the two together like unsavory jokes on the far right with like Muslim, real threats from Muslims, lump it all under one thing, and then just blame the far right because they can politically get away with that when they enact laws, when really the laws actually probably are to keep the Muslims in check.
Well, it is an interesting point you make because, like we've already established, we've got 5 Reform MPs, 4 Gaza MPs, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, this is the first time this has happened in British politics, like Muslim MPs, like just Muslims, independent. And so, yeah, you're right. Like Sargon and the Tommy Robinson gang and Nigel Farage and all the white people, essentially the far right white nationalists or whatever you want to call them, they need to they've got an opportunity here to kind of like align themselves with the establishment almost, because Keir Starmer and his crew and all the Tories and what have you, they don't like the Gaza gang. They don't like them. And partly that's because they're in bed with the Zionist lobby and what have you. But whatever the case, I guess what I'm trying to say is like those people should be the bogeymen. Like,
Yes.
you know, if all the world is a stage and if every country's got its bad group of people, you know, that they should be the bad ones in British politics. Those boys right there, those 4 MPs and the Gaza vote and the terrorist vote, which is the Hamas vote, which is essentially what it is, they should be the bogeyman of British politics for the next 5 years. That's what we want, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how they get away with it, because they're advocating for a prescribed organisation, which is Hamas. And my understanding, if you do that in the UK, you go directly to prison. You don't pass go, you don't collect £200, you go to prison. So it's prescribed, just like what's the far right one that's prescribed? I forget its name now.
National Action.
Yeah, it's prescribed just in the same way that is. Hamas is on the same level as that. If you advocate for that, and yet we have people standing up in British elections like that fucking that Green Party candidate at the local elections, who are, this is a victory for Hamas. So
Yeah.
I don't know how they get away with it, but it is a threat. And so these people are going to have to be curtailed, and we don't want to be lumped in with them whenever that happens. So I think it was a smart move by Sargon of Akkad. I don't think he chose to do it himself. I think he had better somebody much smarter than him came to him and said, Sargon, you can do something intelligent here. And go. Actually, I think he mentions it. Peter Hitchens told him to do it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter Hitchens told him.
I like Sargon. I've always defended him. I think he's a very affable, friendly person, and very willing to talk to people, very willing to debate with people. He's not somebody who loses his temper very often, and I think he's done a fantastic job of building the Lotus Eaters and bringing all those people together and creating his own little news organization and cultivating a new, younger generation of thinkers who are going to go forward to do great things. I think he's a great leader. He's done a great job. And part of the reason is because he's kind of non-threatening, essentially, which tells you a lot. It tells you a lot. Like the firebrands of this world burn all their contacts, like me or Nick Cotton or Thomas Baden Rice, whereas the less controversial, less confrontational people, they win, I suppose, in the long run, because they end up developing a wide circle of friends, a wide network of friends, and which kind of carries them upwards, I suppose. Even people like Hitchens seems to be burning its bridges with everybody, because people are just getting increasingly fed up with him, despite the fact that he's really old, really famous, and he's got all these contacts. It's like he's so arrogant and stuck up and so willing to insult people so easily that it's like, all right, Hitchens, we love you, but actually, you know what? You're just a miserable boomer.
Yeah.
So I guess just be friendly to people and you'll win. in the long run. That's the trick.
Yeah, the thing about Sargon as well, I mean, let's be clear, he also has managed to succeed because he explicitly disavowed ethnic nationalism, essentially. And he did do that. Now, here's the thing. Some people have to do that, okay? I think some people have to do that. Because if you don't do it now, like if Nigel Farage gets up in the House of Commons and says, actually, blah 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 blah. I can't think of exactly the words that he might say, but if he got up in the House of Commons, then that would be it. That would be it over. He would end up having to resign, and that would be the reform movement dead in the water.
Well, a lot of
people
people
might not like it. We might not like it, but some people along the way do have to disavow it because the Overton window isn't there yet. It was almost there. It was almost widened in like 2016, 2017, but it narrowed again, didn't it?
Yeah, some people have been complaining because Farage did a recent tweet saying he doesn't care what skin color you are, just as long as you work hard and this, that, and the other. A lot of people on Twitter were just like, "Oh my God, how dare you say this?" But it's like, well, what do you expect him? Do you expect him to say the opposite?
Yeah.
You always gotta question the opposite whenever you're considering what anybody's saying. Like, is he going to come out and say the opposite? No. So he presented a meritocratic argument, and that is what it is, and it just comes back to that old point of, we live in a democracy. You've got to moderate. You've got to take the majority, and in order to take the majority, you've got to moderate. And you've got to take the centre-right position, and that's the game. That's the game on the table.
Incrementalism, when you have an official position, is really the only way forward until you actually have the reins of power, because you're never going to get. In fact, it's not just that you won't be able to appeal to the moderates, the majority blob in the middle. It's that you will be blocked from ever even being allowed to officially appeal to them, because you will be destroyed by the media. You will be removed from accessing the ability to campaign to them, to appeal to them. So if Nigel Farage stood up and said, "I'm here because I only want white people in the country, we need to send the buggers back," then that would be it. the media would destroy him.
Yeah.
So, and in this country, in the climate that we have, the media don't just allow you to not disavow people. They explicitly require you to do it. They pressure you. They put you on the spot. So Nigel Farage is put on the spot. Do you? Are you a racist, Nigel? Are you? Do you agree with this person? And so he has no choice. He might not like that. But
it's like we talked about it before. Like, I mean, my perspective, it's like you've got four divisions in society. You've got an intellectual class, you've got a political class, you've got a merchant class, you've got a working class. They all have different duties. It is the duty of the intellectual class to speak the truth. It is the duty of the your audio's gone out, by the way. It is the duty of the political class to seize power. It is the duty of the merchant class to create wealth. It's the duty of the working class to serve the other classes, right? Just to work. So for us on the internet, we're the pseudo-intellectual class. We can speak the truth. We can say whatever the hell we want. But for somebody like Nigel, he's a politician. His job is to seize power. It is not his job to speak the truth. His job is to take power. And in order to take power, you have to say whatever you got to say in order to take power. That's it. That's the game. So the dynamic is that people on the internet who are speaking the truth should be intelligent enough to understand that, and then you play a game where you work with the Nigels of this world in order to nudge them into power. Right? That's the game that you play. That is the game, and it falls to pieces when you purity spiral yourself out of existence by saying, "Oh no, Farage is a Zion. I mean, I'm just so fed up of hearing this bullshit. Do you know what I mean? It's just like they used to say this way back in the day about UKIP. Like, oh, they're Zionists. They're never going to do anything. They're never going to achieve. It's like now they're finally in Parliament. Even at this point, people can't rally behind them for some reason. Like, it's like he's finally done it. And even now, people are just like, oh, he's not perfect. Well, the world's not perfect. That's it. Politics is the art of compromise. That's it, dude.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Let me now be honest, be brutally honest. In that, I'm not super thrilled about the reform potential. Okay, I'm not super thrilled about what's happened and the prospects for the future, and so I didn't get very excited about it. But I kept my powder dry. And I decided not to go against it. I came on the stream with you. I realised I was going to have 2 weeks away on holiday anyway, so I was going to be out of the picture. Essentially, Nigel announced, 3 weeks beforehand, I was going away the next week. I probably, at the end of the day, agree with Morgoth in his assessment that Nigel will betray us. And that he does have allegiances that aren't in our favour. Deep down, I probably agree with this assessment, and it's the assessment that everybody on the right wing does. But I've kept my powder dry. I'm trying to hold back because at the end of the day, I understand that politics is a thing of incrementalism now. I feel like I've grown up a little bit. That the only person due to the British system of first past the post who could ever form a popular movement at the moment is probably Nigel Farage. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he's compromised or not. He's probably the only person who could do it.
Well, all right, but I got to say, like this whole thing is like a passive, like, oh, Nigel's into. Look, we have to bend him to our will. That's the point.
Yeah.
The point is reform should have 200, 300, 400,000 members, and we make them do what we want them to do. That's it. That's not we need to give up on this passive, like, oh, I need a leader to save me attitude, and we need to get more of a proactive, like, no, let's do entryism, let's join this party, and let's tell them what we want and make them give us what we want, right? So who cares if Farage is a bit dodgy? Doesn't matter. Grab him by the balls and squeeze and make him give us what we want. That's the kind of attitude that we should have.
At the very least, what reform can be used to do, and people are suspicious, are not suspicious, they don't believe this is possible, but can be used to sculpt out the Conservative Party going forward. Because it could end up being that there is some kind of compromise made, so like we were talking about at the start earlier, some kind of deal made in the next election with reform and the Conservative Party. And going forward, as the Conservative Party rebuild, they may, with the threat of reform, have to rebuild, basically adopting, at least 75% of reform, which would be an incremental. I know you don't think they're going to. A lot of people don't. But
I don't think they're going to. I think Kemi Badenoch's going to be the leader. Michael Gove is going to make her the leader. I mean, this is according to Connor Tomlinson and the boys and the Lotus Eaters. This is what they've been saying. This is the word on the street.
Why Michael Gove? He's not been elected. Who's been elected
because
to the 1922 committee?
Well, according to Connor Tomlinson, he's playing the game of being the kingmaker behind the scenes in the Tory party, like the puppet master of strings, right? That's the game he's playing. I don't know why, but that appears to be that's what they're saying. I don't know. And Kemi Badenoch is his wonder child. So they're saying that she's going to be the next leader. Like I said, they've already kicked out. She's not even British. She's black. She's whatever. But
She wasn't
she's
even
going to
born
be.
here.
I know it's absurd, but I mean, we've seen they're already drifting to the left. They're kicking out party members left, right, and the centre. They'll probably end up kicking out. I mean, maybe Suella Braverman will become the leader. That would be the best thing. But even then, I think it's probably better that she doesn't, and then she'll probably just shift to Reform. And Reform will have 6 MPs. And the whole of the right wing Tory base will shift also to Reform. What we really need is for this party to transform itself into a real party with real, because currently it's like a dictatorship with Farage in charge, and that was good and that was necessary in order for them to seize power, because Farage was always getting hamstrung by the NEC in UKIP and just various shenanigans behind the scene. So we needed this kind of dictatorship in order to take, stop that bullshit so we could seize power. And that's worked. But now they are in Parliament. They need to reorganize it and make it a kind of political party that people are going to want to join, and where the membership's going to have some kind of voice in the way that the party is run and what policies they have and so on and so forth. And if they do that, then it will become the big tent, and everybody on the right wing will just flood in there, join it, and it'll be a part. It should be great. It should be like, oh, I'm looking forward to the next Reform meeting in my local area, and you go there and you've got the Boomer Zoomer Alliance, and it's people drinking beer and talking about this, that, and the other. It should be fantastic. It should be great. And if they do that, then they could win in a landslide in the next election. If they don't do that, and we continue with this kind of bullshit that we got now, with Zia Yushaff buying himself a position of power within the party, and Farage continuing with his like dictatorship policies, then it's going to be shite, basically. So that's why I'm saying like this whole attitude. What people are going to say, people like Morgoth are going to say, they're going to say Farage is shit, we can't trust him. I'm saying I don't care. He's in Parliament now, right? That's the thin end of the wedge. We got in there. He's in Parliament, which means he's in the news cycle, and he's got 4 lads with him who seem to be good eggs, and they're going to be saying the right things. We need to get into that party. We need to make it a real party. We need to make it our party. We need to demand a reform of the Reform Party, essentially, so it is a real party in which the membership has a say, and then we're good as gold, and then we'll win in 2029, I reckon, hands down. Because we'll surge ahead. We'll surge ahead, and we'll. Yeah, look, Okash, he said he's going to change the structure. So that is the game right now. This is the question in British politics, as far as I'm concerned, right now.
Okay, I was
how is he going to change? Because we can't do anything about what Labour's doing. That is gone. They're going to do net zero 2030. They're going to do a whole bunch of crazy shit, amnesty for illegals. Like there's no way that any of us can affect or change or transform any of that shit that goes on. That is out of our sphere of influence. We can't control it, so we can comment on it, but it's not really like. We need to focus our attention on entryism into Reform and getting that under our control, and that is doable if we focus our attention on it. And this is, I mean, I've been saying this for 8 years about the Tory party, because I've been saying they've been in charge. Let's do entryism. Let's take the party over. Let's bend it to our will. Nobody wanted to do it because they're all doomers and they hate the Tories. Okay, fine. We have the opportunity now. We have the golden opportunity now with Reform. It's the same opportunity we had, by the way, 5 years ago with Gerard Batten, which everybody on the dissident right missed. Melania Woes missed it. Mark Collett missed it. Morgoth missed it. That could have been our party. Gerard Batten was good. What he was doing, like putting Sargon in there and Count Dankula and all those boys, that was a perfect thing for him to do. He was rallying the forces. He had tens of thousands of young people joining, and the leaders of the dissident right totally shat on him and stabbed him in the back on the first possible opportunity. With the history has returned again, we had a similar opportunity here, and we cannot fuck this up. We cannot fuck this up. It has to be full steam ahead, reform entryism. That's it.
So there's a few things there. So the comment on the screen is that he's going to change the structure. Well, that has to be done for any of that to be even possible, because it's a limited company at the moment with no ability for the party membership to have any kind of say on how the thing goes. Yeah. So that has to be changed to start with. Somebody's also left a comment that, like, Farage called out the NEC. Yeah, there we go.
Basically, I remember that. I remember that for many years. Farage complaining about UKIP's NEC subverting and sabotaging him. His instinct for reform may be to avoid democracy.
Yeah, you remember all this, don't you?
Yeah, they fucked UKIP to pieces.
Yeah, so he's not. He's going to have learned that lesson, but at some point it has to be built as a proper party.
The difference here, though, sorry to interrupt, the difference here is that he's in Parliament now, so they can't screw with him too much because he's a sitting MP. Like, you know what I mean?
At some point, it has to be built as a political party because it now is one. Okay, so it's going to have to be by hook or by crook at some point. However, anyway, we'll have to watch for that. But that's the only way that entryism is going to even work. Apart from that, though, how do you... there's a couple of points I want to bring up. What about the idea that you want to get Reform to be the biggest party to defeat Labour, your grand idea of in 2029 it can sweep into power or whatever? Bit optimistic, I would say, but even so, what about the idea that if we do believe in Britain, etc., in England as a traditional place, what we should be wanting to do is rebuild the Conservative Party in our image, that we should and not replace it with Reform, with this part.
Oh, stuff that. Nah, fuck them. Fuck the Tories. Yeah, sincerely. Yeah.
That is the party of the ethnic Britain, isn't it?
Okay, that's the party of the Normans. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to say the Tory party has always represented the aristocracy, and the aristocracy have always been the Normans, and the Normans have always had a slightly stuck-up upper class, the peasants, their kind of attitude. And I know that is a cliche that people throw around, and I know part of that attitude is very left-wing and kind of like anti-English in itself. But nonetheless, the cliche exists. There is a certain truth to this cliche. And some aristocrats are a bunch of snobby, stuck-up cunts. And let's be honest here, how many lords and ladies have said anything about Rotherham? They've got power. They've got their money. True. They've got their houses. They've got a lot of real estate. I know this is a cliche left-wing complaint, shitting on the aristocracy. But out there in the fields of England, in the countryside, like ordinary people like me and you, we don't see these mansions, but they are there. These huge estates and huge amounts of wealth tucked away, and rich people sitting on this huge generational wealth. It's there. It's going on. It does exist. They do have money in Eton and in Oxford and all the rest of it in the institutions of power. They are tied up, and the Tory party has been for a long time. You know, it's been said it is the party of what do they say? Gentlemen, a place for the gentlemen, the sons of gentlemen to attain office in this country or something like this. So I think there is a snobbishness actually in the Tories, an upper class.
Oh, there is. Absolutely there is. I mean,
I think they're cunts, to be quite honest with you. And I think Farage, because they've failed in their duty. Same with the royal family. So, I mean, it's a tricky position because you don't want to be anti-monarchy, you don't want to be a Republican, and you don't want to be anti-aristocracy. And I'm not. I believe in the aristocracy because they are ancient families and they do a certain kind of job of upholding traditions in the country, like, I don't know, well, fox hunting's gone, but whatever. I mean, you know, like horse racing or whatever, you know, going to crufts and things like this. They do have a role, but at the same time, they're not really sticking up for the native British population, and they own a lot of money in real estate, and they're perfectly happy for their property value, you know, their real estate empires to be inflated by mass immigration. So they have betrayed us. So it's a case of love the throne but hate the family that sits on it, I suppose. So
Yeah,
I just see the Tory party as representing essentially the Normans. They are the Normans, and they've been knocked off the top spot, and it's been a long time coming, and stuff them. Basically.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I bring this up because in the run-up to the election, I mean, I found this zero seats campaign incredibly suspicious, and I find all the people behind it fucking loathsome. I despise listening to the content that they put out about it and their happiness about it. That whole campaign, by the way, morphed into outright support of the Labour Party. I don't want anybody to forget this, right? That this zero seats campaign, run by academic agent and supported by the low seats and everybody else, let's just be honest here, and Morgoth and Millennial Woes and all these people, was at the heart of it, right? It in front of your eyes transformed from just convincing you that we needed to just give the Tory party a bloody nose to outright support and encouragement and championing and love of the Labour Party. Now, a lot of people still can't see it, but it did, and it still is.
Yeah, it started off as an accelerationist meme.
Yeah, but then it exposed itself. It just
I agree. It started off as an accelerationist meme of just fuck the Tories, and accelerationism is the idea, burn everything down and then somehow things will get better. But then you're right, it did gradually expose itself as the academic agent basically just saying Tony Blair is a genius and saying things like Keir Starmer's going to put away the woke, right? This has been the motto. Keir Starmer's going to put away the woke, and they're commenting on some of the things that Tony Blair's been saying that Blair's fed up with the woke now, and he wants to put it away, and he's got an influence on the party in the background, and they're going to. And I just think it's all shite. It could just be a massive psyop paid for by the Labour Party. I mean, who knows, right? Who flipping knows? And it is very, I don't know. It's kind of a weird one because
very suspicious. It's very suspicious.
It started off. It's weird. It started off as an accelerationist meme, kind of revealed itself to be a pro-Labour meme, but then sort of in part transformed into a support for the Reform Party meme. So they've kind of like gotten away with it, I suppose, you know, even though there are a bunch of
they got away with it by flipping into
being a pro-reform, and it needs, and you're absolutely right, this needs to be brought up and stated very clearly. The academic agent never supported reform, Morgoth never supported reform, and the Lotus Eaters were perfectly happy to throw reform under the bus after they got kicked out. It's only when Nigel Farage came back and there was this massive surge of support for reform that they kind of grudgingly said, oh yeah, let's vote for Nige. But before that point, they were perfectly happy to burn the Tory party to the ground and give the entire country to Labour because fuck the Tories. And that was the wrong position to take. I was against it and you were against it.
Yeah.
and I think we were both right to be against it, but there you go. I mean, it's all.
Yeah, and when them guys did, like begrudgingly come on board with some of the reform stuff, that they're now like giving, some time towards Nige posting, that kind of thing. It was only to the effect that it could further enhance the Labour victory. It's like
Yeah.
academic agents saw, wow, yeah, Nigel's doing our work for us here. He's going to deliver the Labour victory. Let's lean into it. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's just visible. If you share my screen again, I've just got one tweet up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's even visible. Like even now, even still, we're now a week post the election, that they're like just posting like post-election Keir Starmer porn. Is
Yeah.
Keir Starmer the real Mark Darcy? New Prime Minister parallels Bridget Jones's love interest. More of this hot sauce. I mean, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
These are just... This is just Labour Party shit. And so I was suspicious of this.
Very interesting. Sorry, go on.
I was suspicious. I've been suspicious. Everybody says, "Oh, you're just reading too much into it, SGJ. You're becoming too much, contrarian for contrarian's sake by going against these people." But I mean, this guy's a literal Iranian in the UK. I mean, what is going on?
Maybe they just flipped him when he lost his job as a professor, because he used to be quite economically. He was a capitalist, essentially. He was very much against socialism. And then obviously he lost his job, needed to make money, and maybe someone just came along and bought him. That's a possibility, because he never used to be like this.
Yeah, or maybe there really is like foreign influence that's been put into our politics somehow, and it's been used to destabilize British politics. And so yeah, here's the theory of foreign interference. Okay, reject it if you want or whatever, but here's the theory that there's foreign interference, and it's like part of the dissident right is co-opted into this, and it's basically just to destabilize us, and that perhaps even reform have been used to do that as well, to undermine the Conservative Party and to deliver this situation now where the Conservative Party are fucked, basically, looking at the next election. British politics is now like really the cart has been upturned, and how this plays out we don't know, but what we do know is that it really has disrupted the up to now stable British politics. I'm not explaining myself very well, but
I know what you mean. Okay,
look,
first of all, I would argue that in any country in the world there is always foreign influence. So when people scream foreign influence, it's like you should assume that there is foreign influence. Obviously, countries are going to invest money and try to manipulate other countries' political situation by whatever means, whether it's honeypots or whether it's spies, or whether it's paying for dissident thinkers to save various. Like that's par for the course. I don't think anybody should be surprised by that kind of thing going on. I'm generally speaking unwilling to say that anybody is an agent of a foreign power unless it can be proved, and I don't think you can prove any of this. So I just think it's a moot point, and regardless of what other foreign powers want to achieve by disabling British politics, the question is always going to be, well, how can we spin this in our favor? That's it. So I mean, is the academic agent being paid? Like we've got Wyvern the Terrible banging on about this. Everyone's being paid by Russia to support Putin or whatever, and it's like, well, I don't know. Can you prove it? Not really. So what can you say?
Because here's the thing. If and it's a big if, I grant you that it's a big if, given what they've done to us, and I'll play into the meme myself, over the last 14 years. If what they've done to us over the last 14 years is anything to go by, this is a big if. But if, like, smarter people than us know that this Tory party really is the party of the ethnic Brit, and that, you know, somehow getting control of that could really, like, turn this country around towards what we want, and destroying that institution that has the ability to take power, crippling it at its knees, and introducing this third element into it was like a win for, like, foreign interference. Then that's what I'm saying. We should consider this.
Yeah, no, they've
keep it in mind.
Yeah, definitely. They've broken the Tory party.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, it's like, how do we move forward? Like, I defended it for a long time. I tried to push back against accelerationism and doomerism for a long time. I advocated for Tory entryism for a long time. I think it's dead now. I may be wrong. Maybe if Suella Braverman becomes the leader of the Tory party, then it can be fixed and it can be turned around. We're really going to have to see what happens in the upcoming leadership election. But I mean, it seems to me that the party is just going to move further to the left. And as it moves further to the left, anybody with any kind of conservative mindset is just going to go over to reform. That is what's going to happen. And so, I don't know, like, when it comes to politics, you kind of got to go with the flow a little bit. You kind of got to go with the crowd. You know, it's like in the election, I was going to vote Tory, but when Farage popped up, it's like, well, that's it. It's done. Like, forget it. Like, Farage is going to come in. He's going to split the Tory vote, and it's over. So we may as well get onto that movement of people, if you see what I mean. And I think that's where the positive energy is, and I think that's, regardless of whether this has been engineered by a foreign power or not, that is the situation that we have now, and that's the path to victory, and that's just what we got to do.
Yeah. So the alternate argument to what I've laid out, like, here's the foreign interference case. The alternate argument to this is that it actually didn't matter that much what reforms done. They really changed the landscape for the next election, like we say, with now who's in second place in many constituencies. But just looking at the outcome, I think somebody's done the numbers on this, and the Tory party were on, you know, heading for a wipeout anyway. They would have only got something like about 40 more seats if you took away reform out of this election.
Yeah.
So, because Nigel was faced with this accusation immediately that all you're going to do is elect the Labour Party, and he said, I remember saying, right at the start, the election's over. We know who's going to win. It doesn't matter really. I might as well throw my hat in the race now. It doesn't matter, this election, and he was right about that. The polls turned out to be correct, didn't they?
Yeah.
So,
except
I do think we need to keep this in mind, in the back of our minds, that this, whole reform business, unless we do bend it to our will, somebody like Morgoth could end up being proven right, which would be unfortunate.
I am listening to what you're saying. I'm just distracted because I'm trying to look up the local elections. Obviously, we had the local elections 2nd of May 2024. Obviously, Reform didn't do very well, and that was a big disappointment. That's one of the reasons why I gave up on them, was just going to vote Tory. It says here, do you know what? I'm not really on top of it, but the next local election, it says 2025 United Kingdom local elections will be held in May 2025.
Yeah, that's because not all council seats are up for election each time.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird, isn't it?
It's really bad how local elections work. So at the last one, not all councils were up. So people listening in might not have been able to vote in the local elections because your council wasn't being elected. So
right, but I just want to make my point before I forget it. Okay.
Yep.
because the dissident right obviously is full of doomers and everyone's really unhappy, I'm going to throw this out there as an idea. Let's say you're a crazy conspiracy theorist and you're alienated from society and you're unhappy and you're really interested in politics, but you don't have a voice and you do, what do you do? Well, here's an opportunity for you. Local elections are going to be coming up, and reform candidates are going to stand in those local elections, and they are going to win those seats, because now the Reform Party is a real party. It's no longer a joke. It's no longer a protest vote.
True.
It's a real party, and it's in Parliament. And if you get elected, SJJ, or anybody in the chat, who we got here? Puff Wagon, Sabrisky, Dooge, Bob Altberger, Jules Roy. If you get elected, you will have a job and you will get paid. I don't know what the wages are, but everybody knows a government job is a cushy job. So what are you going to make? 30 grand a year, something like this, for being a member of a local council and literally doing politics as a job and being paid. This, my friends, is on the table. This is on the cards. This is on the table. All you got to do is join Reform and go to a few meetings, talk to a few people, get a haircut, wear a suit, sound intelligent and sound normal. And maybe they'll say, yeah, we'll give this guy a run. We'll give this guy a chance. And in the upcoming elections next year, but you could get a job working for the government. Okay? This is what I'm trying to talk about here, guys.
Oh, yeah, you're making a great point. I hadn't thought about this.
Entryism. There's a reason why people get involved in politics. Partly it's because they care about politics. Partly it's because
for the money.
Partly it's for the money. Partly it is for the money, right? You get a job in politics. Now you're doing something that you enjoy, but you're also just going to meetings and talking to people, and God knows what you're part of the bureaucracy, right? That's why a lot of people join the Tory party. That's definitely why a lot of people join the Labour Party. It's a cushy job. So I mean, I don't want to sound cynical. I don't want to say, oh, you could get a cushy job, but I mean, let's be honest here. Like I believe in selfishness. I believe that you can have idealistic ideas about changing the world, and that's all very good and everything. But at the end of the day, people like who follow their selfish desires end up winning, and people who, how can I say it? It's like that old mafia. It's like I watched this old mafia movie once, and at the end of the movie, the mafia boss is sitting there. And all the people in the community are coming around, and he's telling them like, oh, I'll help you out. I'll help you with this. I'll help you with that. And you could see like even though he was a gangster, he was like a member of the community that helped people. And because he helped people, he had a position of power. You see what I mean? Because he was helping people in their ordinary lives. In a similar way, like if you want to seize power, you have to help people and help them in their personal lives. And Reform as a party is now going to be an organization that is in a position to help people and get them jobs in the government, essentially, right? And this is a game changer, because there's hundreds of thousands of angry gammon out there who have just been alienated from the system for a long, long time, and they need to start thinking with their heads. They need to stop this like, I'm going to complain about shit on the internet attitude, or I'm going to protest attitude, and just say, no, fuck it, I'm going to join Reform, and I'm going to get elected, and I'm going to get paid. How about that?
So whilst you were talking about that, I hadn't thought about this, by the way, but I was. So let me get my ADHD under control. So it's a good point where you make. The local elections are where Reform now is going to have to put some energy in, because this is how you build the ground game in a constituency, is in you get councillors elected, and then these councillors are in place, and then they organise in the constituency for general elections. So you build a presence. This is how the Lib Dems have done it. You build a presence by winning council seats in local elections too. It's how you get your foot in the constituency. But while you were talking about that, I did check some information, like Puffwagon is saying councils aren't paid, and I think that's true. Apparently, from what I just googled,
Depends what position.
Yeah, this is it. You can claim expenses up to something like £13,000 a year, which isn't bad anyway. That's nearly a salary for like a low minimum wage worker on top of whatever you do anyway. But then there are other jobs that come up. We all know this. If you know anything about your local council, you've seen councillors who are doing very well out of the job somehow. There's other jobs that become available on that council then, aren't there? Somehow.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a bit more research. I mean, I know a guy. I used to work in a factory with a guy, and he told me he worked for a council up north.
Like you become head of planning or something on your council because you're a councillor, and then you get a salary on top of what your expenses are, or something like that.
Exactly.
There's all these positions available in the council once you're in.
Yeah, or I don't know. The unemployed, like who runs the local dole office? Who runs? Yeah, exactly. Lots of positions of power in the government that are well paid, and you get your foot in the door, and then you've got your cushy position. And this is exactly what needs to be done, because this is what the Muslims are doing, and the Hindus, and like everybody else. This is what the left wing does. They just get into the government and they take. And I mean, by the way, I'm against this because I believe in a small government. But nonetheless, we live in a bureaucracy. We live in a managerial style civilization. Okay, this is how our country is run. Essentially, you have a giant managerial bureaucratic class, which is like a giant blob parasite, and it sits on top of the country, and it doesn't create anything. It doesn't produce anything. It just sucks up taxpayers' money, and it's just endless. Like, it's middle-aged women sitting in offices, drinking coffee and talking about stuff and not really getting much done and shuffling paperwork around. And it is awful. And it is the death of the nation, and I am against it. And it's not very masculine, and I think men in general are against it, because men would much rather work for themselves, and do you know what I mean, than be part of some giant organization. But nonetheless, that is what we have, and this is the blob. And if you want to fix the country, you got to take on the blob, and in order to take on the blob, you got to work for the blob. You got to get in there. You got to get the angry gammon men and push them up into local government somehow. That's it.
When you were talking, then you reminded me that fucking hell, we have yet to find out how the Labour Party are going to start to do constitutional reform as well, and what this is going to do, because they've they've said that within their first term they're going to implement like Gordon Brown's plan to do massive constitutional reform, which could really cement their power. So that is something to watch for. What was I going to say?
I'm just looking at salaries for Devon County Council from Glassdoor. 303 salaries. It's a lot of it's teacher, project manager, social worker, support worker. Worker, £30,000 a year for doing what? Fuck knows, like just some fucking bullshit.
Well, that's I can tell you what
transport planner.
I can tell you what support worker is. Support worker, right, is the type of person who sits with me like an ADHD kid in school. Okay. They sit in the class and they go, Stephen, stop looking out of the window, please. Like that.
30 grand a year. 30 grand a year. Fuck me.
But these are not elected positions. These are just all the jobs that your council then puts out, employs teachers,
We'll have to
employs
do
support.
some more research and come back to this next week or whenever the next time it is we talk. Because the thing about, like, I've seen Hitchens talk about this. I think he was mentioning how the Blair Party just tore up all the local councils and everything's all a bit muddled and a bit confusing. And it really does depend where you live in the country. They've got different systems in different parts of the country, and it's just a fucking mess. And he said like this is one of the reasons why, like, MPs, you know, they have their surgeries and people go to the MP and they complain about, you know, the rubbish not being collected and stuff like this. You shouldn't really be going to your MP and complaining about this stuff. This is an issue for the local council, but because everybody's so confused about how the local council works, they go to the MP instead, right? So the whole thing's a giant clusterfuck, and it depends what part of the country you're in. But nonetheless, the elections are coming, and whether it's paid or not paid, we have to storm through this. It has to be 5 years of entryism into reform, storming the local elections. And by the way, like, again, because it's a clusterfuck, it's hard to say how much power they have, but I can bet you a local council will have a saying on whether the refugees are going to be put in your hometown or not. You know what I mean? So we really should be taking this.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's also the stepping stone to becoming an MP as well. So out of the reform councillors that they managed to win in local elections over the coming 4 or 5 years, you can bet that they will then pick from councillors, successful councillors, to then stand as candidates in the next election.
Yeah.
So anybody with, you're right, anybody with aspiring political ambitions, there is an opportunity when reform is looking for council. And you're right that like, I looking at my own constituency, I won't say exactly which one it is, but reform managed to come second place in mine, and they got like at least half of the votes of the Labour Party candidate, who fucking got back in again and is gonna be I make this joke that all my Labour Party MP does is drive down to Westminster with a bus and pick up illegal immigrants and drive them back up here. That's all the fuck she's going to be doing again now for the next 5 years. So there are, but I was looking at the numbers, and reform came in a real healthy second, and she, you know, at the next election, if there is going to be a threat to her, it's only going to come from reform. That's certain.
Yeah, it's also an indicator. It's an indicator of who's going to win the next general elections. Like, the people, they watch the local elections. If you win big in the local elections, then you probably win big in the general election. That's the way it works. Which is why I got disappointed with reform when they lost so badly this year. But nonetheless, that was under Richard Tice. They are in Parliament now, so they are in power. Farage is going to be on the TV all the time. He's going to be making headlines all the time. They're no longer some weird fringe outside group. They are a real political party. And we need to surge forward as a mass. All right. We need 200, 300, 400, 500. Labour Party's got 500,000 members. Why can't Reform have 500,000 members? And just take over all the local councils, build your network, take the country. That's it. It's a simple, straightforward policy. Otherwise, like, what's Morgoth's advice? Don't join Reform, and we'll do networks and stuff. Mate, you want to build a network? There's a network already sitting there, right? It's called Reform. Like, I know you hate the Tories, so you don't want to join that. Fine, join Reform. Network within their network. I mean, there's another aspect to this, which is just like an educational thing. Like, I've got no idea how political parties function because I've never had a management position inside one of them. But you let's say you really hate Nigel. Okay, well, join Reform anyway, work within it, figure out the mechanisms and how it works and how people talk to each other and what the systems are. It's like running a small business, isn't it? Like, you figure out how it works, and then you can set up your own business, party, whatever. But we've got to get in this thing on the ground floor.
Yeah, there is an argument to be made for people like Morgoth and Mark Collett and Millennial West staying the fuck clear of reform if you want them to do well as well, because you know, reform don't need the bad press of somebody like Mark Collett coming out. You know, it would be the worst case scenario, wouldn't it? Like he did with fucking Brexit, to turn up with, you know, Mrs. Swastika and holding a reform placard. Doing
the Sieg Heil at the reform meeting.
Surprised it didn't happen right before the election, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's fine. Yeah, they can continue to do their little fascist gay thing. That's fine. I think they're just good. I think that group of people are increasingly just being replaced now by the Lotus Eaters crowd. I think they seem to have like really stolen like the spirit, because they got the Zoomers. They're young, they're intelligent, they're quite articulate, and they are aware of race. They are aware of mass immigration. They want to end mass immigration, and they're even talking about mass deportations. So they're not ethno-nationalists, but they're so flipping close to it that it doesn't matter. And they're smart. They wear suits. They're talking to Liz Truss, you know, and it's great. It's great stuff. That is the future right there.
I wish I enjoyed it. Again, only to be honest here, I just don't like it. I just don't listen to it because I just can't be bothered. Ugh,
is it the vibe or is it?
It's the vibe, really. I don't like that Chris Gard guy who's fucking, you know, he was part of chanting that zero seats,
Right.
Who's always on. He's now Academic Agent's co-host, basically, on his show. I hate this fact that Sargon's enterprise is so intertwined with the Academic Agent's fucking thing. He's really got his claws into it. I understand why it's happened, but yeah.
No. I look. I didn't like seeing the Academic Agent on there as well with the elections. I don't know. It's politics, isn't it? Like, they don't make perfect the enemy of good.
I'm not going to be daft, Nick. I'm going to try and keep my powder dry and not be too anti something like the Lotus Eaters or anything like that. I'll still, you know, stick the knife in Academic Agent when I feel like I know once every 6 months. I think just to get it out of my system, but you know, I'm going to see how reform goes, see how the Lotus Eaters go over the next 6 months.
Yeah, you just have to be unemotional about this. It's like playing a game of chess. Like, I'm not attached. They're all just pawns to me. Maybe like Nick Cotton gets attached, and he's emotionally connected. I'm not emotionally connected with Sargon of Akkad, or the Lotus Eaters, or GB News, or Farage, or any of these people. I don't. They're not really my heroes. I don't look up to them, so to speak. I just see them as pawns in a larger game. Like, that's the kind of attitude that I think you have to have, like a kind of like almost superior kind of parental kind of attitude of like encouraging the retards to do their job, sort of thing, like an arrogant attitude, really. And I think the dissident right does have this arrogant attitude, and they're right to have it. It's just that I don't know, it's like an arrogant. You have to have like a benevolent arrogance instead of an angry arrogance, I suppose.
I think that the era of, unfortunately, we lost the era of 2016. We thought we were going to win politics in 2016 to whatever 2020, the Trump era, the post-Brexit era. We lost that war, and we can't get it back. It's not happening. And so it's also become stale. You know, posting 4chan memes and this kind of thing. It almost worked, but it didn't work. And then it became stale, and then it became cringe. And a new type of politics is what we have to try now, which is one more of attempting to, I agree with you, invade the establishment, try and, you know, keep your powder dry and work up, infiltrate the rungs of power and wait for instruction. I think it's...
Yeah, that's it, dude. That's it. And just read, talk about stuff, and chew, keep the fire burning, keep chewing over the ideas. I mean, I think everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about mass immigration now. Everybody's talking about the you-know-whos. Everybody's talking about anti-white racism. All of this subject. I saw that guy... Man, I can't remember that guy. One of the guys that was involved with Charlottesville. Like, I saw him do like a post on Twitter or something a few years ago, and he was saying like people get it wrong when they think the alt-right failed. The alt-right actually succeeded. The e-celebs from the alt-right, they failed. They've all crashed and burned. But it was never about the e-celebs. It was about the ideas, and the ideas of the alt-right are everywhere now. They're everywhere. They're all over the internet. The Lotus Eaters are talking about all of these ideas. They don't identify as being alt-right, but they basically are alt-right, more or less.
Of course they are. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, Sargon. There'll be people who say, no, SJJ, you're wrong. But of course, Sargon, I think, was won over way back in 2015 by Millennial Woes when they had their fucking big debate. And he stuck to his guns and he said, no, white nationalism is wrong and I'm not a racist. But I think he was won over. And you have to look at what he did all the way through. Now, all the way through, he's denied it and explicitly disavowed racism and stuff. But that's been just playing the political game.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's for white. Obviously, he's for white people. I mean, he denies it to your face, but obviously he is. I mean, this is what Richard Spencer calls implicit pro-whiteism. My brain's gone to putty. We're nearly at 2 hours, aren't we? But
Yeah, 2 hours, isn't it? Yeah. Shout out to Gop.
Yeah, he'll see his comment in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Living the dreams here. I saw him in Thomas Barton Rees's chat. People are just now spilling over. I guess Thomas Barton Rees has finished, and so they're probably spilling over.
Is he been streaming? Are we streaming at the same time as him?
Yeah, he started 1 hour before you started, so he got the crowd basically. That's probably why we had low numbers.
Oh, I didn't know. That's okay. That's all right. Yeah. Are you gonna speak to him then? Are you gonna be like going on his show or like what's up?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. He probably thinks I'm an Illuminati agent since last time because I basically brought him back onto the internet and then he crashed and burned again. And now he's come back under his own steam. Probably blames me for him crashing and burning last time or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh well. Anyway,
he's
Thomas,
doing his own thing though, isn't he?
Mate, Thomas, if you're listening, we love you. Keep fighting. Just like, I don't know, man. It's like, chill out, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think, like, in general, like, he's a really clever person. But, like, for me personally, as an enjoyer of the internet, I want to learn things when I listen to live streams. And, I don't know, man. It's like in order to learn things, you gotta have someone that teaches stuff. That's why I like watching What If Alt Hist, because I watch that guy and I always learn something new. But when you're watching people just being angry about shit, you don't really learn anything, and it just gets a bit boring after a while. So there you go. I mean, like Major White Pill from What If Alt Hist. He does a video. He's talking about population. He points out that I've been thinking about this for months now, actually, ever since I watched it. But he pointed out that cities have always been a population sink throughout history, not just in the industrial age, but even in medieval times. People that live in cities always have less children than people that live in the countryside, and so the populations have always been replaced by people from the countryside. And he pointed out that, I don't know how true this is, but he was saying that there was a lot of foreigners living in Italy, in the cities, a lot of Middle Easterners and different people, and they all just got ethnically replaced by your locals living in the countryside of Italy. And this kind of thing happens all throughout Europe. And he was talking about the mass immigration problem that we have, and he was saying, look, these immigrants live in the cities. Okay, so London, he didn't mention London, but I'm mentioning it. London, Birmingham, Leeds, all of these giant Muslim populations, they are all urban populations. And if we do manage to at least close the border, eventually these people will bleed out. It may take 100 years, but they come here and they're religious and they have a lot of kids, but then they give up their religion and they just do whatever people in cities do, and they don't have so many children. And as long as the farmers of England, and 99% of farms in this country are run and owned by white people, as long as the farmers and the villagers of England continue to have children, eventually there'll just be a vast gentrification of the nation. And it may take a few hundred years, but essentially, as long as you own the countryside, you win in the long term. So there's a bit of a white pill. I just can't stop thinking about it. I don't know. It's just on my mind. It's just...
It's interesting. Look, another interesting thing is, I think it was Millennial Woes who once just dropped this, and I never thought of it before. I'd never thought of it before, and it's that when it comes to let's not call it deporting people, let's call encouraging voluntary remigration out of the country, then all you have to do is get rid of the fertile ones. You can let the non-fertile ones stay, like the old ones. So people above 40 can stay. They're not going to have any more kids in a generation that'll form itself.
Yeah.
So you just have to encourage, let's call it voluntary remigration of the fertile class, which is a lot easier, actually, than like, upending, like, 60-year-old grandmas.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, oh, here's your 18th birthday present.
You just have to get rid of 20-year-old Jamal,
Yeah. And his girlfriend.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That would probably be the way that I would do it.
Yeah. Which could be done. A lot could be done with some popular programs such as, Make Pakistan Great Again, and, tart it up in like a positive way and say, now you're off to make Pakistan great again. Yeah,
or just offer, like, we'll give you your dole money. We'll give you 10 years worth of benefits if you just go and live in Pakistan and never come back or whatever. And you just get all the young people, send them there.
But I'd never realised this before. There's over 40. It doesn't matter if you stay, really. It'll solve itself in a couple of generations, that problem.
Yeah, you need the youth. You need the youth. I mean, another thing, I don't know, because I'm just fucking autistic, and once I get an idea in my head, I just can't stop thinking about it. But I've had this crazy idea in my head. I don't even know how it came into. It's like this weird fantasy. It's just got in my head. But I was just thinking, like, because I like to think about alternative history. Generally, like, what would I do at this point or there or whatever?
Yeah.
And I've been thinking for some reason about the Belgians in the Congo, because they were so cruel to the local Africans. And I don't know how the thought came in my head, but I've been thinking, like, let's say I was the leader and I had, like, 10,000 white European people living in the middle of Africa in the Congo, right? How would I take over the whole country? You just got to breed. If you passed a law, if you had a patriarchy and you passed a law and you said every girl at the age of 16 has to be married, she has to have a baby, and you do a tax, and so that if she's not pregnant by the age of 18 or whatever, then you get a fine, and you fine. Well, it would be
Yeah.
the kind of thing that would create a culture. It doesn't have to be a really bad fine, but if the law is there, you would create a culture whereby everyone would just get on board with it, and every father would be in a hurry to find a husband for the daughter. Do you know what I mean? And start family when it's young. And if you did that, and if the families were having 10 kids each or whatever, you double the population every 20 years, and you just grow. And then you just, because Africa's full of just like empty land that's not, and you go to foreign countries and you're like, look, you've got this land, we're good at farming, we could farm this. They'd invite you in. The white man's here to make money. And then before you know it, you got like 100 million or 200 million, or you take over the entire continent. I don't know what, I can't get it out of my head. Like this alternative history, it just keeps going round and round and round in my brain. I just like think it's trying to tell me something. But if you're breeding, no matter how bad the situation is, if you're part of a group of people who are getting married and having lots of kids, you will eventually outbreed everybody. If you keep to the rural areas and you stick to the farming, and if you keep your women under control and you make sure that they're married at a young age, because the cities are death traps, and that's all that's got to be done. Anyway,
well,
it's just a crazy thought.
The population that knows this the best, it's not the Muslims. They do it instinctively. I don't think they necessarily think, on the 90 IQ level where demographic replacing them through birth rate. They're just doing it. But the population that knows it and are doing it deliberately are like the Hasidic Jews in the diasporas. They've done it in New York. They've done it like on the West Coast in LA, and this is how they know that they're doing it. They're incentivized. They tell their kids, you need to find. Well, actually, we're going to give you a wife. We're going to set you up. You have to become married. You have to have a wife, otherwise you're a weirdo in Orthodox Judaism, and you have to have 5 kids by the time you're 30 or something, because it's for the race.
No, that's it. You need a racially conscious religion that is super dedicated to breeding, and if you do that, you'll conquer the entire world. Because
it's like
I say, I keep watching this old Hiss guy, and he keeps on going on about demographics and how throughout history you always have population collapses, and he keeps on pointing out in the 21st century we are lined up for a massive worldwide population collapse. The population in Japan finished, Korea finished, nobody's having any kids. China, who is once everyone was worried about China, they're not having any children. They are so fucked in the next century. It's unbelievable. All across the world, I think the Hindus are doing all right, which is why India's like laughably probably going to end up conquering the world, unfortunately. The Africans are kind of doing all right just because they just can't stop having sex. But everybody else, even the Muslim countries, they're not having as many kids as they used to. So we're going to have worldwide, we're going to be facing aging populations, less young people, and massive population collapse. And the people that breed will conquer the world, essentially. So that's
it was amazing actually. Before we go, it was amazing being in America and traveling out of Vegas. Did like a couple of 500-mile almost trips, right? Which, I mean, is huge. I wouldn't dream of doing it over here. But over there it's different. And so you went through lots of these communities. Like you drive, say, 100 miles, then there'd be these tiny communities with like a gas station, a few trailer parks, a few like trailer homes, and maybe one shop, and you realize like just how sparse, just how vast America is, and how sparsely populated actually out of the cities.
Yeah.
that country is. It is so vast.
Yeah. Well, this
don't
is
know
the
what-
thing also, like if you want to do the breeding thing, you have to have communities because you have to keep the women in check. And the women, being the type of people that they are into peer pressure. And I mean, you know what ladies are like when they meet each other. They're like, oh, you know, your hair is so nice. And they just, they like to be friendly to each other and they like to conform and they want to be in the group. Okay. I remember Stefan Molyneux talking about this a long time ago, talking about his daughter. And he just said, like, the worst thing that can happen to a young girl is to be excluded from her friendship group. Okay. Whereas for young boys, it's like, whatever, you just have a fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for young girls, they want to be in the friendship group. Okay. So a small community of breeders is, as long as the wife or the breeder, the female, is surrounded by other girls who think the same way and are doing the same thing, then they'll have lots and lots of kids because they won't want to be excluded from the friendship group. That's the thing. That's the dynamite success story, essentially. Small, tightly knit, religious community. The men are in charge, but the women have friends. There's a friendship network for the women, and then they will pretty much stay in line, and they'll have lots of kids, and they'll take over in the long term. That's how it works. That's why it all breaks down in the city because everyone gets atomized, and you know.
And that's why we're fucked in modernity because now liberalism is like the final boss. I think the toothpaste can't be put back into the tube, at least not easily. And so
it's just impossible. Like I talk to because I'm working with a bunch of young Zoomers now, and I'm like, are you gonna have kids? And they're like, no. Like literally every single one of them's like, no, I don't want kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happens to the country? And they're like, I don't care. Or like, we'll just have immigrants. And it's like, okay, so the entire country will just be replaced by foreigners because you don't want to have kids. And they're like, yeah, it's okay. Well, we're so fucked. We're so fucked. It's incredible. Yeah, I don't know what to say. One of them, interestingly, did turn around and just say, well, the old people need to die. That's what she said, which is quite funny. And it's like, yeah, the fucking boomers. They've got, they got all the money. They got the property. They need to die. And then there'll be like a giant wealth transfer and things will get moving again, I suppose.
Yeah, in a way, that disease that swept through the world in 2019 wasn't harsh enough, in a way.
Yeah. Fucking boomers, dude.
But
yeah.
Anyway, my brain's turned to mush. We've done.
Yeah, mate,
we did 2 hours.
Yeah, good. Enjoyed that. Shout out to everyone in the chat.
Can I just say, for any of people who are listening from my channel, I might be talking to, I think, everybody's favourite Claire Core tomorrow night to talk about my trip to America on my channel. So if you want to come over and listen to me talk more about what I did in America, I think I've got Claire coming on tomorrow and I will talk about it over there.
All right, cool. All right, bruv. Well, nice to chat. Thank you, everybody, for coming on the stream. Please do share the stream with your friends. Post it on Twitter. Trying to help us out. Small channel. So give us a retweet. Give us a share. And thank you very much. God bless. Good night, everyone. Good night. Boom.
Bye-bye.
Boy.